The one major thing you can't outrun is the truth. The truth always catches up. Always.
Are you focused more on enjoying now or building a financial nest egg for your future? Really ask yourself.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Saturday team call. Today we have like an extra special team call, and I'm over here like freaking out, all the energy. I hope you guys are excited. I hope you have like your notebooks, your pens. If not, go run and grab it while I'm talking, because you're not going to want to miss when they're chatting. So if you don't have it, go get it, grab yourself a drink, get comfy. And yes, look at all the notebooks. I love this so much. So as you guys know, if you're in my team, you have heard of the Hyperconscious podcast, now known as Next Level University. I have shared so much of their content with you because they have impacted my life and the way that I run my business, from like the Daily Dozen. If you're on my team, you do the Daily Dozen because it is just so impactful to putting your vision together and why you need to see the whole picture. So all that stuff came from these guys. So I can't even like explain, but let me just roll back a minute here. Speaking of vision work, I had a vision that I was going to be on these guys' podcast one day. I was like, these guys, we are going to like meet and chat. And it's going to happen. And so today is like a dream come true for me. I feel like my visions come to life. And so I'm just so grateful. I'm going to pass it over to Sherysse and Amy because they are the beautiful souls that like lined this all up today. And we are just so grateful for them. So like give Amy and Sherysse like little round of applause. I'm going to pass it over to Sherysse now and let her say a few words. Thanks, ladies.
Hi, guys. Super excited for this call today. Gloria's been sharing hyperconscious stuff for a really long time, and I've been listening to these guys talk for, I don't know, at least 6 months. I really liked their heart center and their intuition and how they kind of married the stuff that needs to get done with living from that heart space and having purpose and having passion, as well as personal growth. So it was very aligned when their podcast came in, and it's one of the ones that I listen to on a regular basis. Recently just started coaching with them, and the value that I've gotten just from getting coached by them has been huge. So I'm super excited to have them come and pour some of their knowledge into us today. And yeah, I can't wait. So.
Hello, everyone. We are so excited. I'm not used to I just clapped on my microphone. I'm not used to having that in front of me. But we are so excited to have you all here today, and so extra excited to have Next Level University here with us. I, through this community, got introduced to this podcast, and it ended up being one I went to more and more until finally it's the one I'm making sure I'm checking when there's a new episode. And I think what really brought me in was I was listening to separate podcasts for separate reasons. Here I want to listen to for my mental health. Here I want to listen to for my business goals. Here I want to listen to, for my health and my well-being. And here, whereas I noticed these guys bring it all together in one space. And that is so valuable. I think we all have an understanding that when our personal life isn't going well, our business isn't going as well. And when our business isn't going as well, our personal life isn't going as well. If our health isn't going as well, none of these above are going as well. And so, oh my goodness, these guys bringing that all into one podcast that we can listen to with ease and daily, because they just push out incredible, valuable content all the time. These guys are amazing. So I know you guys are all excited to hear from them. I am so grateful and so honored to introduce Kevin and Alan from the Next Level University podcast. Thanks, guys, for being here. We're so excited. Take it away.
We just want to say thank you for the amazing introduction. This is why we do this. This is why we take this so seriously, because we want to help as many people as possible. And one of the nicest things we've heard in terms of a compliment is that we're very heart-driven, but we're no BS. Okay? So if anything in this presentation comes off as harsh or kind of hardcore, remember, we have the most empathy for what you guys are going through. We have gone through a lot of it ourselves, but we want to make sure that we're not sugarcoating things. We want to really, really help you. And a lot of people aren't necessarily going to tell you the truth. That's always our goal, is to really tell you the truth.
One thing I want to say as well, thank you so much for the kind words. That was the best introduction we've ever had. between Gloria, Amy, and Sherysse. We really, really appreciate it so much, and it means the world. Honestly, the fact that our podcast, we want to be a mentor in your pocket, and the fact that we've been that is so tremendous. Thank you so much for having us. Words cannot describe how appreciative we are of that. And also, we've worked really hard to review every single answer that was submitted on the questionnaire that we sent. So there was 23 responses, and we read every single line item, and we're going to talk about that today. But today we've got 10 lessons, stories, principles based specifically on the responses that you gave us on that questionnaire. So this is going to be very, very relevant, and we are super excited. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So Kevin, ready to kickstart it?
So just before we do start, like Alan said, this is like a fully custom presentation. We literally went through and said, okay, what do these people need the most that we can talk about? So we're going to be hitting a lot of things. We have the content to do an hour on everything we're talking about. So at some point, we'd be happy to come back and chat more and deeper about things. But we're going to try to touch on, the top 10 things that we saw throughout.
And one more quick thing here too. So if you do have a question throughout, we do masterminds every single week. And so in this format, typically what we have happen is we have people put their questions in the chat, and then Amy will actually read them to us. You can either put them anonymous privately to Amy on Zoom, or you can just ask them to the whole group. And feel free to please interrupt us throughout. Like we have the timer set here. We've got 50 minutes from this moment, and we want it to be as valuable as possible. So if you have questions, please do not hesitate to interrupt us.
Boom. Ready? You ready to roll?
Let's rock.
All right. So 80% of people struggle with this one thing. All right. There is a book called The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin, and she basically breaks people up into 4 groups. And the group that we're going to be talking about in this slide is obligers. So an obliger is a person who it's very hard for them to stick to their own plan. Like, it's very hard for them to stay on task for themselves. But if you say, hey, I need you to do something, they're really good at dropping what they should be doing and helping you. And I know a lot of people, a lot of the feedback we got was that was something that you guys struggle with. And the quote, you're going to do, like, you do more for other people than you're willing to do for yourself. That is what this slide is going to be about. So we asked a question in the questionnaire, and that question was, in what area of your life have you been consistently letting yourself down, but unable to change, fix, or improve yet? And we have an actual answer here that we're basing this slide on. So somebody responded with constantly letting other people direct my ways. I'm always trying to please and keep the peace. I don't like conflict, so I do what I think others would like rather than what I would like. Now, I don't know who that person was. We're going to keep all these anonymous. But if you feel the same way, this is for you, okay? I used to live with my best friend. And when I lived with my best friend, we had different goals. We had different ambitions. We had different things that we wanted out of life. And for a long time, I would kind of be walking on eggshells because he would ask me to do certain things, and I would have to decide. I have to say yes and oblige, or I have to say no and chase my dreams, okay? And this is the thing that I've really realized, looking back and reflecting. Now, this person understands completely why I had to say no all those times, okay? The people in your life, yes, they love you the way you are. Yes, they want your time. Yes, they might be happy when you're doing things for them, but I guarantee if you lean into the person that you want to be, if you lean into the things that you know you should be doing, they will eventually understand. And this is going to be the hard but true. If they don't understand, they might not be the people that are supposed to be in your life, right? Like, Alan and I are very understanding of each other. Like, hey, I'm going to go do this today. I won't be around. I won't have my phone. Okay, cool. Hey, can I have the studio? I have 4 calls today. Okay, cool, right? You want the people in your life that are going to allow you to do what you want to do, but it starts with you. You have to understand that people, it might seem like you're choosing between your own success and your relationships with people, but it's a line that you're going to have to start, right? You're not going to lose people right off the bat. I promise it's not going to happen. It's not. You just have to dip your toe in. You have to dip your toe in. So if you can take anything from this first point, understand that you have to set your own boundaries with yourself first, because people are going to be unintentionally taking advantage of you. Mm-hmm. They don't know that you're so set on saying yes to them. They have no idea. And if they did, I guarantee they would try to help you, right? So I would communicate that. So my question to you guys is, how often do you know you should be saying no to something and you're actually saying yes? Like, how often do you say, I should really say no and I should stay home and do this work, I should send these messages, I should go exercise, I should do whatever it is, but you end up saying yes to the thing and you don't get any of that stuff done, okay? I want you to write down, and I know in the preamble, I don't know if it was Amy or Sherysse or Gloria who said to have notebooks, but we're going to give you some action steps where you can leave here and actually do things. I want you to write down how often, on a scale of 1 to 10, how often are you saying yes to the things you should be saying no to? At the end of the day, the people who are the most successful in the world are also the people who say no more often than other people. They say no to the things that don't bring them closer to what they want.
I think the other important thing here to understand is I use this analogy. It's like, imagine if you have big goals and you're in an environment with other people who don't have as high of goals. Like, let's say, hypothetically, you're thinking 10 years into the future, okay? And you're like, I have this huge ambition, whatever it might be. It's almost like you're waking up every day at 5 a.m. to go water this patch of dirt, and you know there's a plant under there. You know there's a seed. You guys have heard the Chinese bamboo about the first 5 years of watering it. It doesn't even break the surface. And then when it does break the surface, it's 200 feet tall within like a couple weeks. That's a lot of what entrepreneurship, business, young living is about. And so if people don't believe what you believe, it's almost like you're waking up every day at 5 a.m. watering a patch of dirt, and the whole world sees a patch of dirt. And they're like, this person's crazy. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? So they're energetically going to be questioning why you're doing what you're doing. I feel like that all the time because I'm often thinking about the decade, not necessarily just today. And so I think it's really important to understand that if you're in an environment with other people who don't have common goals, they're going to naturally misunderstand you because they don't know what it's like to think that far in advance, right? If one person is just trying to pay their bills this month and the other person's trying to change history. Now, those are two extremes, but those two people are going to naturally misunderstand each other because everything they say and don't say, think and don't think, believe and don't believe are going to be inherently different, especially their decisions on the day-to-day. So if you feel misunderstood, I think that's par for the course of having big goals. And I think it's important. Remember, the question I would have you ask yourself before we move to number 2 is this. What if what's best for you is what's best for others? This is something my girlfriend got me to realize because her and I are always talking about selfish versus selfless. And it's like if you're an inherently selfless person, and we read your responses, you guys all care deeply about others. That's why you're in this business. It's literally like, what if what's best for you is what's best for the world? What if the happiest, healthiest, most fulfilled version of you is what's best for everyone else? Even though basically sometimes it feels like you're losing love or you're being judged. I told Kevin in the preamble, I said, I think one of the challenges that they face, and I've been there a million times, is sometimes you have to choose between self-respect and being liked. They're not always the same. And so how often are you choosing to stay in integrity with your own goals versus obliging?
Can I add real quick?
Please.
So my girlfriend, Taryn, has a book club that we run every Saturday at this time. Okay? This is a great example of selfish versus selfless. I literally told her last week, I said, we have a great opportunity to impact a lot of lives. I'm not going to be able to make book club. Now, some people would say like, oh, that's kind of selfish, like you're letting her down. But she understands because I've already set the boundary. So that's the advice from me is set your own boundary first. At the end of the day, it's your job whether or not to open the door or close it. If your door is always open, people are just going to walk through and they're not going to know there's even a door there, right? So boundaries is something that jumped off the page for sure. That's practice. It's not going to happen overnight. Nothing I say is going to make you have immediate boundaries, but you have to decide during this, after this, tomorrow, in reflection, you know what? Yeah, they were right. I don't really have a lot of boundaries. And I'm afraid that people are going to push back on my boundaries. They might for a little bit, but I guarantee eventually they'll understand.
And one other thing, too, is it's interesting because if you do have these big goals, and many of you do, we noticed on the questionnaire, you're going to have to evolve and grow in order to achieve those goals. That's part of why we have goals, is because it forces us to grow, forces us to change. The problem is if people love you for the old version, you're going to feel that tension. But just trust that they're going to fall in love with the new version. And if they don't, that's kind of their problem. I know that's hardcore. But the truth of the matter is you're going to have to evolve to achieve your goals and your dreams. And it's either sometimes you have to choose between being liked and loved and then being loving and liking yourself by staying in alignment. Number 2, okay, with consistency, all things are possible. Without it, almost nothing is. One thing that I find interesting that I talk to people about is basically Kevin or I, if we tried to climb Everest right now, we would both most likely die.
I could make it.
You think so?
No, God, absolutely not.
Now, that doesn't mean we can't climb Mount Everest. It means we can't climb Mount Everest right now. Why? Because we don't have the right guide. We don't have the right training. We haven't done cardio in a dog's age.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But the point is don't make the mistake of saying, I can't do this thing because you're thinking about just now. If we were consistent training for climbing Mount Everest for the next 5 years, we could totally climb and succeed. People have done it, right? The key is consistency. So with consistency, all things are possible. Without it, almost nothing is. So in the questionnaire, we had a question. Based on your current awareness, what is currently holding you back from achieving your goals? That was one of the questions. This was a specific response. My lack of execution and consistency. I tend to put things off, especially the things that are harder, instead of doing them right away. And I go through spurts of motivation and consistency. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys today is a concept called the bow tie. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but it's super important. So imagine you have an X and a Y axis, and if you have a piece of paper, put an X and Y axis on it. Now, the upper right quadrant, I want you to draw a line going from the bottom, like the middle of the X and Y axis, to the upper right. Okay, an arrow from 0 to the upper right. Now I want you to draw an arrow from the upper left of the upper right quadrant, hopefully I'm making sense here, to the bottom right. Okay? Now, the x-axis in this case is going to be time. The y-axis is going to be, basically think about it this way. So if you guys can see me on screen right now, I've got this. This is the bow tie. Okay, the center is right there. This arm, this left arm right here.
You want to use mine so you can talk?
No, it's all good. Thank you, though.
Sure.
Okay, so this right here is going to be effort, results out. Results out. This one is going to be effort in. My point is this. At the beginning of any journey, especially entrepreneurship, so let's say when you first start at Young Living, you're going to have level 10, level effort in, for almost no results. But eventually that 10 and 0 eventually becomes 9 and 1. Then 8 and 2. Then 7 and 3. Eventually you get to 5 and 5, where the effort in is actually returning an income. It's returning a real result, like, holy crap, this is working. In the podcasting game, Kevin and I are finally coming up on effort in equals results out. Eventually it flips. This is called the consistency flip. Eventually it becomes the other way. Joe Rogan could stop podcasting today and never podcast again for the rest of his life, and we would never catch him. Why? He's been doing it. He started way earlier. He's been doing it consistently much longer. He has, billions of listens?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so that's what happens when you do an investment account for a really long period of time. The point is you guys, if you can get consistent, consistency is everything, because eventually, at the beginning of a journey, it's level 10 effort in for 0 results. At the end of the journey, it's 0 effort in, Joe Rogan quitting, for 10 results out. See, he's already Joe Rogan, right? You could take Oprah Winfrey's house, you could take her money, you could take all her network. She's still Oprah Winfrey, right? She's at the other end of the bow tie. She's at the other end of the consistency flip. So just remember, at the beginning of any journey, it's way, way, way harder. It's way more work for very little reward, but eventually that flips, especially in you guys' business. So the question I would have you ask yourself is, how consistent do you intend to be for the long term? There's a great quote in a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And I talked to Amy and Sherysse about this on our coaching call last night, actually. Life is a long game, but it's actually in short bursts. So it's an all-out sprint to form a habit, then it's a marathon. So the beginning of any journey is really, really hard. Again, are you setting up your day for consistency? Are you focused on consistency? With consistency, all things are possible. Without it, almost nothing is. How well is your life designed around that?
And you might be saying, like, well, yeah, I understand the importance of consistency, and that's why I'm struggling with it. I think you have to attach it to your purpose. Like, most people don't necessarily enjoy going and exercising, right? Like, Alan and I don't always enjoy coming to the studio and recording episodes. Sometimes it's really hard. But it's the habit and the consistency is based on the result that we want eventually, right? We don't have to want to do it, but we really want to inspire and impact. What I would say is create more necessity with a purpose. Like, why do you actually want to be consistent? Well, I want to make more money so I can pay off my family's debt. Okay, then it's not motivation that you need, it's purpose, right? Motivation comes and goes. Purpose doesn't. Purpose doesn't. Like when Alan and I take this very seriously, the podcasting game. Like when we say we would die for this, we would. But it's not just the podcast, it's the impact. It's our purpose, right? So it's a lot easier to stay consistent and build habits when it's tied into your purpose. So that's the advice I would give on top of Alan's.
Fire?
I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Any questions so far?
It's weird not being able to see the screen. I know. I don't like it. Okay, we're going to go. All right.
No, yeah, not yet. But everyone, please feel free to type questions in the comments and I will get to them and I'll make sure I interrupt these guys and ask. So don't be scared to do that.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Amy.
Number 3, how different would your life feel with this? What a question. One of the questions we asked in the questionnaire was, if you could only achieve 3 goals in 2021, what would they be and why? And this was a beautiful answer. It's a tough answer to hear, but it's also very positive, and I'll tell you why. The answer was confidence in myself. If I get rid of the loser mentality, I can grow past my imagined limits. Now, this person may seem to be lacking confidence, but they have a ton of self-awareness, especially when you see grow past my imagined limits, okay? So confidence. If you had confidence, how different would your life look? How different would it feel? How much more belief would you have in yourself? There's this thing that Alan and I have called the confidence conundrum, okay? At the beginning of anything, nobody knows the outcome. So we all start there. Alan and I did not know how this presentation would go. There's uncertainty at the beginning. But the problem is, if we lacked confidence, we wouldn't take action. And if we didn't take action, we wouldn't get any feedback. And if we didn't get any feedback, we'd then be able to convince ourselves that, you know what, we're not that good anyway. It doesn't matter, right? And that's where a lot of people live. I really wish I could do this, okay? That's the desire. But then the lack of belief, I could never do that. So you don't take action, which then reinforces your lack of belief in yourself, and that's your conundrum. You live there. What if, hypothetically, you had 2 people come in that motivated you and inspired you for the day, and you said, you know what, I'm going to try something different today. I don't know how this is going to go. A lot of you guys said you were afraid of social media, to show your face on social media. I challenge you. Take the motivation and inspiration from this. After we're done, shoot a live video about what you're feeling, okay? If you did that, you would get feedback that you never would get. You'd realize, you know what, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Then that would lock in. And you'd have a little bit more confidence. Now, confidence is a habit, so you have to build it. But it all starts with you understanding nobody knows how it's going to go at first. So we have a young lady on our team named Amy. She is our executive assistant, and she is the sweetest, and she runs our Facebook Lives. Amy reached out to me probably 3 years ago via Snapchat and said, hey, Kev, I love the podcast, all this happy jazz. I'm afraid to approach people in public. Like, that's something I really want to overcome. Okay, what is that tied to? Confidence. So I said, Amy, let's go to the mall. Amy lived like 45 minutes away. I said, let's go to the mall. We'll do some fear chasing. Okay, we'll just go do some stuff, which is weird looking back. It's like some guy wanted to take her to the mall, never met before. But so we meet at the mall, right? We meet at the mall. I hug her, say, hey, what's happening? Let's do this. Guys, I was afraid too of this whole situation. I want you to know that. I was afraid before this speech. Genuinely. Like when everything was getting jeffed, I was afraid. But I still show up, and that's the moral of this story. So Amy and I go to the mall, and we start by getting coffee and just connecting. And then we go into a store, and we start asking about the furniture. I said, Amy, just go ask that person about that sofa. Amy does it. More confidence, right? We go to another store. Go ask that person about that table. She does it. More confidence. Then we're out having random conversations with people in the food court, building confidence. We're getting ready to leave the mall that day. And there's these mechanical zoo animals for some reason in the mall. I have no idea why. And I said, Amy, you know what would be funny? If we rode those around the mall. And I hoped she said no. But she said, yeah, okay, I guess we can. Okay? So I have a video. I wish I had it because I show you guys. Amy and I rode these things around the mall. Amy now is on our team. She went back to school. She has a full-time job. She works with us. Yeah, 3.8 GPA. Amy's life is completely different. because she decided to show up. And she's never stopped showing up. I'm like getting emotional because she's done so many amazing things. I didn't do anything for her. I just showed her that it was possible. I instilled the belief, and Alan's done this for me. Sometimes you just got to borrow somebody's belief. Borrow ours today and try something today that you normally wouldn't. I guarantee it goes better than you expect.
Oh, I love hearing that story.
It's a great story.
One of my favorites. And Amy is just tremendous now. I know Amy and Sherysse know Amy, and it's still compounding. She's just absolutely crushing it. But one of the things that I want to highlight here is a quote that I try to live by, is you cannot brighten another's path. You cannot hold a torch to brighten another's path without also brightening your own. So Kevin had texted me that day when Amy wanted to go to the mall with him. And he basically said, I'm scared, I don't want to do this. And I basically said, he didn't want to let her down. And, he helped Amy, but also Amy helped him. Because Amy went from, I'm too scared to ask about a product in a store, to now doing Next Level Nation Lives in our private Facebook group 3 a week. With strangers, with people she's never met before, with listeners, right? It's tremendous what can happen. But it's a 3-year transformation. And so there is no quick fix. Just something I wanted to mention before we move on to number 4. All right, so speaking of there is no quick fix, this one is the destination you choose in advance actually dictates the journey. And the example I like to use here is when I was 23 years old, I moved to LA for a time. I lived in an apartment where if you walked out the apartment, the Hollywood sign was right there. If I took a right, it's like dangerous. If I took a left, I'm on Sunset Boulevard, literally. Now, we drove across the country through the center, Route 70, and I think it's Route 70. But the point is that we stopped in Columbus, Ohio, Kansas City, Denver, Colorado. We went to Vegas. The destination you choose in advance dictates the journey. I'm not going to just drive across the country. We actually took a picture at every state we went through, which was awesome. And we have these great memories. It was a great trip, life-changing. The Rockies were incredible, by the way. But a trip from Boston to LA is very different. A very different journey than from Boston to Worcester, which is only an hour away, for those of you who don't know. And so Worcester's where we are right now. But the point I'm making here is, I think that there's a lot of talk out there about how it's about the journey. Life is about the journey. I couldn't agree more. It is. The problem is that if you don't choose a destination in advance, you are kind of wandering around. And so I wouldn't just drive to LA for no reason. I had a purpose. I wanted to work in show business. It was purposeful travel. It was meaningful travel. You guys have heard of a wandering generality versus a meaningful specific. The key is, do you have clear specific goals, and do you have a vision for your life? Because the journey basically required of you to achieve those big goals are going to force you to face fears. So think about it this way, right? Some part of Amy reached out to Kevin and said, I need to get over this fear of judgment. I have to, okay? I want to go back to school. I don't think I can do it. So she had to face her fears in order to achieve her goal. She didn't think she'd succeed in school. She literally crushed it. She got a 3.8. And so her goal of going back to school to be a PTA, a physical therapist rather, was what forced her to face those fears. And so what I want to get across here is, if you don't have big goals, and I know many of you do, that's the value of goals. The reason to set a goal has nothing to do with getting the actual goal. It has to do with the fears you must face to achieve it, the parts of you must grow to achieve it. And so we put a question in the questionnaire. If you could wave a magic wand and make all of your goals, dreams come true in an instant, what does a truly next level life look like for you? There's 2 different...
I have a question.
I love it. What do we got?
I was waiting for a moment, but I'm like, you know what?
You may never get one with me.
But it's perfect with what you were just saying. So before you go into something new, the question is, if you see potential in someone, but they don't see it for themselves, what would be a good way to express that so they can begin to see what you see?
That's a great question. I don't know that you can tell somebody how much potential they have. I think you have to show them. So I would try to Miyagi them in some way, shape, or form. The reason, and you guys, if you listen to the show, you've heard me say this a million times. I always say this during speeches. One of the reasons I'm where I am is because of Alan. It just is. I'm not, too egotistical to believe that I'd be where I am without Alan. I think you have to spend time around people who have the results that you want. So say Alan saw something in me. Alan kept giving me the opportunity to show up, and he would give me feedback when I needed it, but he'd give me support when I needed that. I don't know that you can tell somebody how great they can be. I think you have to show them and you have to let them step into it, because every single one of us in here can be great in some way, shape, or form, but not everybody wants to be great the same way. Not all of you guys want to have the most successful podcast in the world, right? That's fine. Maybe for you, having the most successful family in the world is your jam. Maybe that is your greatness. So I think it's important to give people space to grow into what they want to be, but I think you have to spend time around them and just show them what they're capable of. Don't tell them.
So I think it's both. And I do agree with what Kevin said. It's almost like with Amy, he showed her what she was capable of by doing it with her and leading by example. You know, I think that's the key, is like leadership, is like, don't just tell the other person what they're capable of, but actually show them what you can do together, some project or some new endeavor, or let's go live together, that kind of thing. But I do think the other important piece to answer your question is vision, painting the picture of the vision. And so I do this often. As a matter of fact, I'll just tell a story about Amy. So if any of you know who Natalie Hodson is, she spoke on Brendan Burchard's stage in one of the events that we went to, Influencer. 2,300 people in the room, amazing. She changed my life with this one specific thing. She actually recently came on our show, awesome.
Twice.
2 different times, Mastermind and the podcast. But I trained her team a little bit on the side. And what I told Amy was literally like, Natalie Hodson reminds me of you. Natalie Hodson has a multi-million-dollar business. And Amy, like, if you really wanted to and really worked hard, like, I sincerely believe that you could be a Natalie Hodson by the time you're her age, maybe even beyond that. Now, obviously, it's your own unique flavor of it. She's not going to be Natalie Hodson. She's going to be Amy's flavor of that. But I really intuitively saw that. Like, Natalie Hodson's such a sweetheart, and she's great at business, but she's still learning. And she reminds me a lot of Amy, and in my head, it's like, Amy, if you got around the right people and really worked hard, like, there's no reason you can't be successful at the same level, in my honest opinion. So what I did is, and by the way, I'm using a reference point that Amy also sees. She knows Natalie. She knows she's like Natalie because they're both so kind and so heart-driven. And so it's like I took a reference point that Amy saw in person and then showed her what I see by painting a vivid picture, by communicating what I see. And then I said, it's up to you whether or not you do that. This is just my perspective. So I think it's, yes, show and lead by example for sure and provide opportunities. But I think communicating what you see in someone, I think it's really beautiful. Amy and Sherysse, hopefully I've done a good job of showing you what I see in you two on the coaching call yesterday and the one 2 weeks ago. We just started coaching together. But I think you got to communicate the vision and then help them take that next step. You don't have to look up the 10,000 step staircase and get overwhelmed every day, but you do have to set up the staircase and at least showcase the vision at the top and then just focus on that next step, like going to the mall.
Great answer.
Oh, thank you, brother.
You're still up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So if you could wave and thank you for that question, by the way. If you could wave a magic wand and make all of your dreams come true in an instant, what does a truly next level life look like to you? There was 2 responses that I really want to highlight here. The first one, 150 pounds, 20 income properties, highest level in my business, a comfy savings account, living part-time in Mexico, and traveling all over the world with no limitations. Think about how specific that was. Okay? How quantifiable that was. So kudos to whoever wrote that, by the way. And this is nothing against the second one because the second one's just as good in its own way, but I want to explain something. Second one, confident, joyful, valued, loved, fun, attractive, empowering, time freedom, financial freedom, spiritually sound, filling my cup daily, loving who I am. The point I really want to make on this, I love that. I love both responses. But I want people to realize something, and this is really hard to explain. The first one, 150 pounds, 20 income properties, highest level in my business, that's the true north. Believe it or not, that person focused on that true north is the byproduct of that bigger goal is going to be confident, joyful, valued, loved, fun, attractive, as long as they're in integrity with their core values. Obviously, there's exceptions to this rule. My point is this. What is plugged into your GPS? Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about you can have the best ship, the best captain in the world, but if the captain doesn't know where to go, specifically what island to go to, you're just going to drift around with the tide. So I'm not going to spend much time on this because we only got 20 minutes left. But what destination have you chosen in advance? How clear and specific are your goals? Having the best marriage of all time and shooting for that is a huge true north where joy, being valued, loved, fun, and attractive are byproducts of that. So I just want you to think about the destination you choose in advance is going to create the journey. Just from that frame, really think about your own life and whether or not you've chosen the right goals in advance.
And another good, quick example is like the studio. You guys can see we have our own custom podcast studio. This was never a goal. This is a byproduct of having at least 500 million downloads, inspiring at least 1 billion people. This is literally just a stop in the way. That's just what it is. If we shot for this, we probably never would have got it, because you getting 100% of your goal, it's possible, of course, but it's not as probable as this. If this was 50% of our goal, we still would have made it further than if this was 100. So you dig?
I dig.
Boom. All right. So number 5, there is one major thing that you can never outrun. This is something that I have seen so often in people. So we asked this question. I don't think we've said this one yet. Where do you feel the least successful in your life right now, and why? And somebody said, I'm afraid to be vulnerable and raw, not because of what people will think of me, but because of what past emotions and experiences may come up that I have to face. I don't like confrontation, even with my own past. Again, self-awareness is high. This person is admitting that they don't like looking into their past. The one major thing you can't outrun is the truth. The truth always catches up. Always. Okay? This is something that I have been working on for a long time, because when I was younger, my dad left, right? My dad was never in my life. That's always impacted me. That's always caused me not to believe in myself, right? It's caused me to have lack of enoughness. That's something that I always have to face. After this, Alan and I will literally talk about what went well, what didn't go well, and I'll literally have to face the truth of whatever Alan's feedback is. Like, yeah, you could have done better here. You could have done better there. I think so many people are convinced that their truth is going to break them, when realistically, your truth is already having the impact on you that it's going to have. You just need to release from it. I think that a lot of people are more afraid of their past than they're excited for their future. And if you don't face your past, of course, like I've had traumas, I know Alan's had traumas and experiences in our past, but when we started facing those things, especially with meditation and breath work and having vulnerable conversations, there's things Alan knows about me that nobody else knows, almost nobody else, right? Some heavy stuff. But when I started talking about that helped me. For you have to start talking about it with yourself, because your truth will always be there. It always will. And I am convinced of this. And obviously take this with a grain of sand, because I don't have any information to back this up. But if you look at people who get very, very successful and are still unhappy, they have everything that they said they wanted, I'm convinced it's because they thought that was going to fill a void that's not fillable, right? They were running from their truth, and they thought that these other things were going to fix it, and it just doesn't. It just doesn't. So I think what you should do is literally sit down. You know what this truth is. You know what these emotions are, what these traumas are. Maybe you need a counselor. Maybe you need a therapist. Maybe you need somebody in this community, right? You guys have an amazing community to lean on. Maybe you need just to sit in a dark room and meditate on it. But don't let this go, don't let this run your life. It's something that happened already. Let's face it and move on. I know it's easier said than done, but I guarantee you will thank yourself for doing it. Again, a lot of this is easier said than done. But when you do it, you'll be happy, for sure.
I remember I was driving home in a winter, I think it was a year ago. It was a really cold winter. And I was driving home and my window had broken. And I just was driving home and I was like, Alan, force yourself to just stay with the cold. Just stay with the cold. And I kept doing this the whole time. I kept moving my head to the right. We all have this natural human tendency called the pain aversion tendency. It's one of the cognitive biases. And I was on the phone with Sherysse and Amy last night, and I said a couple questions. I said, can you grow without challenge? And they said, no. I said, okay, can you have challenge without any pain? And they're like, no. And I said, so why are we avoiding the one thing that's going to bring the thing we want most? There's something inside of you that wants to grow. Whoever wrote this, there is some spiritual part of you that really wants to face that thing, and it wants to grow. Kevin and I have cried together multiple times, so many times. I've cried more in the last 6 years than I did the previous 26. And it's freeing. It's freeing. I really encourage you to face whatever that truth is and do it with someone, either alone, do it first, try to understand your own truth first, but then do it with someone you trust, someone who you can trust, someone you feel safe around. That's really, really important if you want to get to the next level. It's like the phoenix from the ashes. You've got to burn down the old self in order to rise and evolve into the new self. Anything else on that?
I love anytime we talk about the Phoenix, the rising of the Phoenix.
Got
it's
it.
just a great one. It's a great
Got to do it. It's the best analogy. All right. Do you really understand money and how it works? Okay, so one of the common denominators in the questionnaire was you guys all want time freedom and financial freedom. Wonderful. We do too, 100%. People who say money doesn't buy happiness, I understand, and it doesn't, but it does buy time. It does give you choices. Money buys you choices. If I want to live in a beautiful home, I need money, period. It is what it is. Okay, so one of the questions was, if you could only use one word to describe what you really need, what would it be and why? Here's the response. Money. More money coming in allows for more time freedom and more space to pour into my creative passions. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy choices. And if you make good choices, then you'll buy happiness. Okay? Now, the example I want to use here is very, very simple, and we all know this intellectually, but I don't want you to say, I already know that. I want you to say, am I doing that? Have I mastered that? Am I doing that consistently? Would my results prove that I've mastered that? Okay? Can you spend more money than you make and then become wealthy? It is so interesting to me that it's so simple and fundamental. We all know intellectually we cannot spend more than we earn and eventually become wealthy. But yet 90% of this country genuinely spends more than they earn. The U.S., I should say. I know not everyone's from the U.S. here. But the point is this, it's just a natural human inclination to prioritize now over the future. But every $5 you spend today is $25 in the future with 8% compounding interest. So the most financially free people, they invest today for tomorrow. If you're not future-oriented, that's okay. Self-awareness is high in this group. Admit it. I was on the phone with Sherysse and Amy, and I know they wouldn't mind me saying this. I said, do you prioritize the future or do you prioritize now? Both of them said, honestly, now. I said, okay, do you think the most successful people in the world prioritize now or the future? They said the future. I said, okay, self-awareness. All we have to do is get a little more percentage, a little more percentage, a little more percentage. So my question I want you to all ask yourself, especially when it comes around this thing called money, are you focused more on enjoying now or building a financial nest egg for your future? Really ask yourself, am I more focused on spending money now or investing money for later? Because if your answer is I'm more focused on now, that is a losing game. And the action I want you to take is just look at your income. Every single day I have my clients looking at their income, okay? If your income always exceeds your expenses, you will always be financially free. If your income is always less than your expenses, you will never be financially free. The key is, are you doing that daily?
And then real quick, this is something I told Alan I wanted to just chat about really quickly. So one thing, I work with early entrepreneurs, specifically usually women, and many people have a block around money, and that's because they have a block around enoughness. They don't feel like they deserve it. At the beginning, you guys are all entrepreneurs. Right? At the end of the day, your business can only be as confident as you are. So going back to confidence, you have to switch your relationship with money. Money is not evil. Some people think it is, and in a lot of movies it is. It's not. Money is energy. Money is a positive energy if you use it in a positive manner. I would go back to the confidence and figure out, where are you bottlenecking yourself in terms of your confidence around money? Because you won't attract more money until you start feeling like you're actually worthy. And that's a huge thing that I see.
And we'll move on here, but if there's get around wealthy people, because they're going to prove to you that money's not evil. They're going to rewire what Kevin just said. The evil person in every movie tends to be the rich, arrogant one. There are people in life that you got to get around. A lot of my mentors are multimillionaires. They're wonderful people. They're wonderful people. Let it rub off on you. Money is not bad. I know a lot of you in this community have a lot of people that are multimillionaires. That's great. Get around them. They'll rub off on you naturally. Number 7.
Oh, number 7. Okay. So this is a heavy one, but again, I promised we would tell you guys the truth. I'm going to do it with heart, but no BS approach. There is a reason 40 to 50% of married couples in the United States get a divorce. So the question we asked you guys, in what area of your life have you been consistently letting yourself down, but unable to change, fix, or improve yet? And somebody put their relationship with their husband. A lot of the answers for this were relationships, love, marriage, whatever it may be. Okay? In every single one of my relationships, looking back, always said that I was with somebody who was crazy. I was that guy. I admit that. I was the guy who said, my ex was just crazy. Until I realized that I was 50% of every single one of those relationships. So I am at least 50% at fault. I have at least 50% responsibility for what happened. Okay? Alan and I both have our dream relationships. Now, a couple things. A relationship is work. So I'm just going to give you the action here, and then we can talk more about it. I would start doing check-ins with your significant other. Okay, so Alan and I've been jeffing a little bit because Taryn, my girlfriend, and I have been really good. But what we were doing is this. We would sit down every Sunday. We would go over the 5 love languages, a book by Gary Chapman. I suggest you read it with your significant other. It would definitely help. And then we were going over the 6 basic human needs. It's a Tony Robbins TED Talk. That's more homework, but honestly, super, super valuable. We were going through these and we were rating each other on how well we were getting our needs met when it comes to our love languages and our human needs. What you're doing is you're giving proactive reason to bring up things instead of letting it bubble up inside of you. My question would be, for everybody who put something about their relationship in this, how many difficult conversations are you actually having? I know Alan has had a ton with his amazing girlfriend. I've had a ton with my amazing girlfriend. Those questions, the vulnerability, the hard conversations, they will bring you closer, for sure. Or they will highlight the fact that maybe you're not necessarily with the right person, right? And I know that's heavy. We just did an episode last week on are you settling in your relationship? And I know a lot of people that are, but they convince themselves that they're not. So I think number one, you got to get clear, all of you, is this the relationship I actually want? Right? Is this relationship actually serving me? Okay? And then another question, am I and my significant other willing to put in another level of effort? The relationship is one of those things that almost everybody ends up in and assumes they're going to win without any work. It's this weird thing. And the finance thing as well. It's like everybody thinks that they're going to be financially successful, but not everybody studies it. Right? So my question is also, how often have you studied relationships? How well do you know your significant other? And then best yet, how well do you know yourself?
We got 3 more, so we got to crank. But my girlfriend and I talk about how the pesky bugs always try to take the garden. And so we're always trying to get rid of the pesky bugs. And so there's certain questions that we'll ask each other. Do you feel fully expressed in our relationship? Here's the cheat code question. Is there anything about me, my character, or our relationship that's bothering you lately that you wish didn't, but it still sort of does? See, it gives her permission to tell me the pesky bug, whatever it is. Okay, and I just sit there and I take the feedback. Now at least I'm aware, right? It's like, well, the bed never gets made or whatever it is. It can be anything. Don't let that stuff go under the surface. You got to uncover it and work on it as a team. It's fire. Strong work.
I appreciate that.
Okay, here we go. So one of the questions was, if you could only use one word to describe what you really need, what would it be and why? We already talked about that. Happiness came up a lot as well. Happiness was definitely one of the common themes in the questions. So I talk about John Lennon. So we all have heard that story most likely. John Lennon's teacher said the assignment, what do you want to be when you grow up? And John Lennon said happy. And the teacher said, I don't think you understand the assignment. And John Lennon said, I don't think you understand life. And I'm not sure if that's a true story, but here's what I do know.
Sounds good, though.
I like that we're all after happiness. Okay, what's the point of life? Happiness. Okay, kind of agree. Here's the problem. We never defined it. What does happiness even mean, right? So I have this framework that I give to people. It's actually 3 things, I think. Again, it's just my perspective, but it'll be an olive branch. I think there's joy, there's pleasure, and there's fulfillment. I think that happiness equals joy plus pleasure plus fulfillment. Joy is being in the process of doing something that you enjoy. So right now, I'm in joy. I'm enjoying this process, okay, being present. Pleasure is if-then. If I see an Oreo, then I'll get a craving, then I'll go eat it, then I'll get a dopamine hit, sugar high, and then I'll have pleasure, okay? That's what a lot of people live their life by. One of the questions I ask often in my coaching is, where are you chasing pleasure at the expense of fulfillment? Write that question down. Where am I chasing pleasure at the expense of fulfillment? Now, fulfillment's the big one. This is the one we miss. This is the one we were never taught in school. Bothers me. Fulfillment only comes, in my opinion, when you grow and contribute beyond yourself. Okay? How often do you choose pleasurable stuff at the expense of your own growth, at the expense of your own contribution? It's Saturday. We could be doing anything. We're here growing and contributing. This speech is not going to go as well as we'd hoped. No chance. That's okay. We're going to learn from it after, fail forward, which we're going to talk about, and then we're going to grow and contribute even more later. So it'll be fulfilling. Even though it might not be as much pleasure after when we do the feedback conversation, it's going to be fulfilling because we enjoyed the process and we grew and contributed. So designing a life around that definition of happiness, I think, is going to be far better. So the question I want you to ask yourself, how well is your life designed around what fulfills you? Do you even know what fulfills you? Okay? And write down all of the things that you enjoy and that fulfill you. And then try to design your life more percentage around that.
Strong work.
5 minutes.
Also, another thing that I think people they fall victim to is we're very much in a grind culture right now. Yeah, you can also grind with purpose though, right? Like one of my clients, one of the things that we have her do every day is take a bubble bath. Because she's working really, really hard. But if you can balance life, grinding, and fulfillment, like it's a different thing. And again, this is a long game. We're playing a long game, so you got to find a way to enjoy the process. Number 9, nueve. The most successful people in the world are also the biggest failures. Powerful statement. That's a powerful statement. So we had asked a question, based on your current awareness, what is currently holding you back from achieving your goals, the goals that you really want? And one of the biggest answers was fear of failure, okay? As Alan said, we have definitely, quote unquote, failed somewhere in here. If you guys weren't in here at the beginning, for some reason we ended up on mute and I was up trying to fix things and Alan was sitting here by himself, that's common. That's common. We've done 540 something episodes. Every single one of them could be better. That it's just plain and simple. It's just plain and simple. So whoever you look up to, like who do you look up to the most? Maybe it's Taylor Swift. Maybe it's Oprah, Martha Stewart, whoever it is. Taylor Swift started singing at cookouts. Some people would look at that as a failure, right? I guarantee she's had issues on stage, but people don't talk about that. Everybody screws up. Everybody screws up. Not a lot of people air it out and show it naturally, right? I always say this. Social media is the highlight reel because most people don't want to see me crying into my pillow on Friday night because of how overwhelmed I am. It just wouldn't do well. But a lot of people are feeling that way. We all fail. Whoever you look up to is probably way more successful than you because they failed way more times. That's all. That's all. And that's what Alan and I are always trying to tell people is like, my second speech ever, I think it was my second, I bombed it. It was terrible. Terrible. Alan and I watched it after, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can ever speak again. It was terrible. But I understood that I have a growth mindset. Okay, write this down. Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's a great book for you if you feel like you have a fixed mindset, which I know I struggled with. Once you can adjust that into a growth mindset, you'll understand that failure is not final until you quit. So that's my question to you. What does failure actually look like to you? Like when you say my fear of failure, do you mean quitting because something goes wrong, or do you mean something catastrophically, blowing up and then that's going to be the end of the road? Because it most likely, one episode doesn't make you, one episode doesn't break you in the podcast game either.
Fire. I
appreciate
like that ending. That was fire.
I was looking at the clock. It's like,
oh man. Okay, so we got 2 minutes 40 seconds, and we got one more principle. But I want to say this quickly. So we did a live event, co-hosted it called Top Notch Live back at the beginning of 2019, January 25th, and we had a reward for whoever could get the most no's. It was a $100 Target gift card. Guess who won?
Amy. Shout out to Amy.
Guess who also sold the most tickets? Amy. Who can get the most no's? Who can get the most people to reject you? And that person sold the most tickets. Michael Jordan missed more shots on the court per time on the court than almost any other basketball player. But he's the best basketball player of all time. There's something here. Fail forward. Number 10, last but not least.
Oh, it's a heavy one, too.
It's a heavy one. Do you really understand money and how it works? That's the wrong hook.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
Is that the wrong hook?
Yeah. Wait, this is the learning zone, anxiety zone.
Oh, yeah. Ignore what I just said.
How often are you anxious and out of your comfort zone?
All right. Based on your current awareness, what is currently holding you back
Fail forward.
from achieving your goals? Yes, fail forward. There you go. The response here: anxiety always holds me back, as does feeling like everything has to be perfect before I can act on what I want. So if I wanted the speech to go perfectly, it's proof that it did not. Okay. The example I have here is weight training. So if you have a pad and paper out, I want you to draw 3 circles within each other. Okay, so small circle, little bit bigger circle on the outside of that. The very center circle, I want you to write comfort zone. One of our main mentors, David Meltzer, came up with this. Fire. Second circle, learning zone. Third circle, anxiety zone. Okay? Now, when you first start any endeavor, let's say you want to play tennis. Okay, you've never played tennis before. Let's say you play against someone pretty good. You go outside your comfort zone. I've never played tennis before. Okay? Let's say you play a pro. You're going to be freaking out, and let's say there's people watching, and they all think you're going to do well. You're in the anxiety zone. It's too much. It's too much. The best analogy I have for this is weight training. So imagine there's 2 people. One person goes in and bench presses 135 easily the whole time. The other person finds the learning zone where they're kind of struggling, but they can still get the weight up. Who's going to grow more? Who's going to be the best in the long run? Is it the person who looks good, doing what's easy and comfortable? Or is it the person who's kind of struggling but not getting injured? Comfort zone, doing what's easy. Learning zone, doing what's difficult but not so much that you burn down. Anxiety zone, doing what's difficult so hard and so long that you burn down, you get injured. Okay, so the question I want you to ask yourself, how much time are you spending in the learning zone? And I want you to write out comfort zone, learning zone, anxiety zone, 3 columns. A lot of writing here. Oh, yeah. Where am I spending too much time in the comfort zone? I need more challenge. Where am I spending too much time in the anxiety zone? I need more comfort. Okay? Design your life around the learning zone, and you're going to get better every single day. At the end of the day, if you want your life to get better, you have to get better. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, a lot of people miss the learning zone. They live in comfort, they get into anxiety, and then they jump right back to comfort. Try to find, like Alan said, try to find that warm middle, because that's where all the growth is. You don't want to be anxious all the time, but you also don't want to be comfortable. We've got to find a balance. I do believe that there is balance in life.
Fire.
Look at that, 2 p.m. on the button. I think that's it.
That's it. That's all we have.
Oh my goodness. Thank you guys
Of course.
so much. I'm getting fire emojis and best call ever. And, everyone's saying, you know what? There's no need for questions. They are just hitting every nail on the head here. Like, wow, I can see big smiles, big nods, big like eye-opening moments for people of like, oh, right? So, oh my gosh, I know this is exactly what everyone needed to hear. And you guys just, as you guys say, it was fire. It was so good.
We appreciate that.
Thank
you.
So good. We couldn't have asked for anything more. We are so grateful for your guys' time. I personally have been so grateful over this last few weeks for your guys' mentorship. It has been a huge shift for me. And I am so grateful for both of you for doing this, for giving us your time. And it's just been such a beautiful experience to get to know you guys and to have your impact on my life.
Thank you.
Amy, we are so proud of you. So proud of you.
Thank you guys.
Your emotions tell all. Thank you so much.
And you guys keep showing up. It's not us, it's you. You guys are the ones doing the work and getting out of your comfort zone and learning and growing. So make sure and this is a great example for everybody, make sure you're giving yourself the credit that you deserve. I know Amy and Sherysse, you guys are, and we love you. XOXO.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Aw, Amy, you're gonna make me cry over here. I love you so much. Thank you so much for your Saturday, you guys. We know that time is our only limited commodity, and we appreciate your time so much. And oh my gosh, you have impacted so many today. I think we had 100 on the call at one point. So just thank you. I hope you guys all took notes and really just took that in. I recorded this, so I will be sharing the link for you all. I'm getting emotional. I'm just so proud. This is like a dream come true. So thank you guys.
Thank you all so much for your time today. We all could have been doing anything on a Saturday, and we're in here getting better. That's my favorite part. It's the best. I wish the world was more like that. Thank you all so much. If you ever need anything, please reach out to us on social media or otherwise. Thank you so much, Gloria. Thank you so much, Sherysse and Amy. Thank you so much for everyone who attended. We appreciate you so much.
And if you're afraid of social media, send me a video. I always do this at the end of the speeches. Send me a video of what you're struggling with. I promise I'll send you one back. It's a good training wheels exercise to get you out of your comfort zone.
Fear chasing.
Love it. Chase those fears. Okay, guys, you have an amazing rest of your weekend, everybody. Sending all the love and light your way. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Talk to you soon.